Welcome to the Get Prepr'd podcast, where we teach you how to future-proof your skills and become a lifelong learner.
Welcome to the Get Prepr'd podcast. I'm here with Dan DeMers, the CEO and co-founder of Cinchy, the global leader in enterprise data collaboration. Dan has spent over a decade as an IT executive with leading global financial institutions, where he was responsible for delivering mission-critical projects, greenfield technologies, and multi-million-dollar technology investments. In 2019, he's joined the Canadian Council of Innovators, which is a select group of CEOs from Canada's most successful technology companies who work with public policy leaders to optimize the growth of Canada's innovation-based sectors. We're honored to have you, Dan. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Dan, can you tell us a bit about what you do as a company and your customers?
Sure. Well, the word Cinchy is actually a play on the word cinch, which means simple. And that's really what we do. We create technology that simplifies and removes the result of really decades of incremental technology that has done nothing but complicate the way that we run our businesses. And as strange as it sounds, that's actually kind of a very unique value proposition. So I don't know if you feel the same way as I, but for decades, it just feels like new technology has made everything, both personally and professionally, more complicated and more expensive. And really our mission is to reverse that trend. And we've started with the enterprise, and our technology platform is already helping large organizations to simplify how they deliver new technology for their employees as well as for their customers.
That's amazing. And you're absolutely right. You know, the last, I would say 5 years with the whole big data movement and then predictive analytics, machine learning, AI, and organizations now talking about digital transformation and digitalization, it's definitely an essential service and tool that you guys are providing. One of your taglines on that note is the end of applications. Can you explain what that means?
Sure. Well, for 40 years, we've lived in what I would describe as an app-centric world, an app for everything, they say, and apps tend to be added more frequently than they go away. And really one of the things that I've realized just in my experience kind of working in a bunch of big companies is these apps and the way that they are architected is actually the root cause on why everything has become so complicated. So today, every large company in the world requires hundreds, sometimes even thousands. And I've been at one company that had north of 10,000 applications just to run their business. And the options for these organizations as they look to add new capabilities, as to rationalize their infrastructure, as to digitize paper-based processes, et cetera, to basically improve the capabilities for both their employees and customers are limited to either buying or building yet another app. And these apps cause data silos. They limit how these organizations can use their own data, even beyond the accessibility challenge. And I think perhaps most concerning is that they prevent organizations from properly protecting sensitive data that truly belongs to their employees and their customers. So data collaboration is a new paradigm that introduces a radical alternative to this classic buy versus build approach. And our technology platform is bringing that to the enterprise and making it really simple to get started and starting to untangle the decades of complexity that's built up as a result of these applications.
Thank you for that overview. I always like to trace back to, the initial trigger or the push that caused you to start this company. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and where and when did Cinchy start and, why you felt the need to create this and solve this massive problem?
Yep. Well, it goes back to before Cinchy. I used to work in a bunch of big global banks, and there was I actually spent almost a decade at what was the largest financial institution in the world that had grown through mergers and acquisitions, which meant that they had a whole lot of redundancy on their IT systems. And my role, I was quite fortunate because usually when you work in a big financial institution, you're working on a legacy system to add incremental capabilities. But I think just through dumb luck, stumbled into a role where I was tasked with building net new systems that were intended to then replace the many redundant systems. And I was quite fortunate in having the opportunity to do that many times over. So I was actually working in capital markets technology, building everything from front office trade ticketing systems to back office stock record systems and everything in between. These are complicated systems solving for very different business requirements. And in doing that, it gave me, I guess, the realization that building these systems is incredibly painful, incredibly slow. And in spite of having total control, I was always the first member of a team. I would have the ability to select technologies, design the architecture, build up the team. And in spite of attempting to really maximize reuse, I still found that the amount of work that would go into these applications, I could barely make a dent in it because the bulk of the work was to build technology capability. So really had the realization that working in a financial institution, the bulk of their IT workforce is not building financial technology or building technology to then enable financial technology. So it's kind of like me as a CEO of a technology company, if the bulk of my employees were building things that had nothing to do with a technology platform, that would be incredibly concerning. So really just saw a huge opportunity to identify those cross-cutting concerns that need to be rebuilt over and over again and solve that once and for all. There's a kind of a similar story that if we go back quite a while ago, manufacturing plants used to have to generate their own power in order to power the plant. And then one day came along the concept of a central power utility. And now you can run a plant without needing to generate power. You can plug into the grid. So in many ways, that's kind of a source of inspiration for what we're doing. And in our case, the equivalent of power is data.
That's truly inspiring, the journey that you've gone through. I recall 2 years ago when we connected at the FinTech Summit at BDC, and you guys had just completed your seed rounds. And, in that period from going from seeds to now, having your second round of financing, what has been your approach to talent and team development, from you and your co-founder to the team that you have now? What's that journey been like?
It's been a blast. One of the other things that I was, again, fortunate in my past life working in big companies is I had the opportunity to hire a lot of people and, quite frankly, made a ton of mistakes. And really applying those lessons in this context, I think is just really powerful to have those insights that I honestly think could only have been made by making such mistakes. So one of the things that I've really come to appreciate through that experience that I'm trying to employ en masse at Cinchy is to really find people who are passionate about something and change the environment to enable their passion. So often people may interview for a particular role. Through the conversation, it turns out that perhaps their interest is actually elsewhere. And I think by enabling them to align their day-to-day to what they actually love doing means that we will be a high-performing company as a result of that, with a high degree of retention. And I think that's just critically important. I've seen so many times over where people do a job because it's a job, not because they love it. And the more you can minimize that, the more productive, happy, healthy the workforce will be.
Absolutely. And it's that cross section between, passion, profit, and progress within an organization, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
At the beginning, though, did you start with a couple of key employees, or did you take a line of credit and hire a few people? How was that process? And then now today, how many employees do you guys have now? And going from being really lean and meaningful about your hiring decisions to having the budget to be able to hire. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it was definitely tricky in the early days, pre-funding, when it was just really a couple of people working pretty much nonstop. And our initial hires were we were actually at the DMZ. We had been selected for an accelerator program and started off with really just two of us. And from there, brought on a couple of really smart co-ops. So our first real employees weren't permanent employees; they were co-ops. And from there, with that very small focused team, using that to land our first enterprise customers, get some real revenue coming in the door, which gave us the validation that was needed in order to secure the funding. And then obviously funding simplifies that problem. And the challenge then moved from, okay, so we have money, we can hire people, but who wants to work at a company no one's ever heard of? So that was our initial challenge. So before there was kind of awareness of what it is that we're up to. As our story was in kind of the earlier stages of its iterations, that was our short-term challenge, was how to really attract top talent to want to work in such a tiny company. And the one thing that, and that was new for me because I've never worked in a small company before. I was working in a big company that had an established brand, and I would focus more on the role and enabling them to be successful versus the broader vision of the company. So I had to really adapt to selling that vision and using that to kind of filter and excite. Because once people buy into that vision, then they're all in, and other things kind of fade in the background in terms of importance. Not that things like comp are not important, but they're far less important overall than actually being interested and engaged in what it is that we're ultimately trying to do as a team. So from there, it was really a mix of continuing to bring co-ops in as kind of our proving ground, with full intent of turning those into full-time employees over time. Mm-hmm. And we've had a couple of conversions already since then, to hiring senior seasoned folks, sometimes through recruiters, sometimes through word of mouth. And then I had, I forget the exact timing of it, but there was a moment where suddenly we were being targeted by potential employees instead of us having to go out and find. Not that we don't go out and search, but as there was more awareness, I was frankly in awe that people were coming to us based on our vision or based on word of mouth. And I'd say most employees that join us today really came to us and demonstrated their passion and interest and engagement in what we're trying to solve as an organization, which I think is just incredible. I love it. So today we're at 27 employees. Most of us are here in Toronto. We have one out in Ottawa, and we're continuing to grow and scale the team. So it's been quite a fascinating journey to go from just a couple of folks to 27, and this is just the start.
That's fantastic and truly inspiring for a lot of our listeners who are going through that early preliminary stages of identifying a problem or validating the solution that they've come up with. Yep. On the note of validation, at what point did you know you had something real, and what was your approach to Cinchy's market validation?
Right. I think for both Karen, my co-founder, and I, we already knew that the platform made sense because we were building it for ourselves. So we were literally just kind of replaying our past and saying, what was the missing technology that would have changed everything? And we created that technology. So we kind of already had a sense. I think the early stage challenge was convincing others of that reality, because in many ways what we promise sounds impossible, frankly, as does really any new category that gets created. It always sounds like a really wacky idea. So the first challenge there was around the messaging and positioning, where we had a very bold vision that frankly just didn't seem believable, regardless if it was demonstratable. It didn't have the social proof behind it. So what we had to do was really, for lack of a better way of saying it, kind of water down and lighten up the messaging. Rather than talking about the end of applications and this new paradigm of data collaboration and the creation of a data network and all these things that we now talk about, We talked about it is a way of eliminating desktop spreadsheets, which have inherent operational risk. And that's how we secured our first enterprise customers and then have really grown from there. But really what we're now finding is that as we have more social proof, as we have more customers and those customers are deploying it into production, saving many millions of dollars, is we can kind of get back to the original vision, which now gives us, what we find is that it actually accelerates our sales. And in terms of the validation, so outside of the fact that we knew it, obviously the proof is in how the customers experience it, and I think right from the start, what I would say the journey is our biggest skeptics become our biggest advocates to the point where we now kind of call that out of the gate, and there's nothing that's more rewarding than having a customer have that strong advocacy and be your internal champion for your technology. So for me, that was that point of kind of that independent validation is when our first customers started to get really passionate about what our technology was able to do for their organizations and starting to spread the adoption within their companies. And that's
great. Yeah, there's nothing better than having your customers become your champions, is there?
No, not at all.
Dan, can you quickly describe Cinchy's business model? How big is this opportunity that you guys? I know you mentioned you're starting a new category, but how big is the opportunity
Sure.
from the research that you've done, and talk to us about the business model that you guys have structured.
Yeah. So in terms of opportunities, so today we're targeting enterprise organizations. We started focusing on financial services, just given our background. We've started to expand beyond that, but we still have pretty strong roots in financial services. But our technology is applicable to every sector in every region of the world, quite frankly, and not limited to enterprise organizations. So one of the things that I think was, we actually struggled with this decision early on, but I think on, looking back, it was actually a really good decision, is we started off as our first customer. So we were using our own platform to build our own company, to eat our own dog food and live our own, experience the pains and joys that our customers would. So in many ways, we were building it for ourselves first and the customer second. And the advantage of that is while we're building it for enterprise customers, we were not an enterprise organization. We did not have 100,000 employees. We did not have hundreds of years of history. We did not have thousands of legacy systems. So we were a tiny company growing into a scaling startup. And hey, eventually we will become large. But our platform will help us throughout that entire journey. So what that means, though, is that our technology can work for a company of 2 people, a company of 27 people, and a company of 100,000 people plus, which is pretty much the range of every company in the world across all sectors. And because we're starting in financial services, it's highly regulated. What that means is the capabilities of the platform and its unique ability to properly protect data is going to be what I would say battle tested in a sector that has a lot of rules to enforce those level of protections, and those capabilities would be of interest to every sector. So when we say eliminating the need to buy and build new applications, we're talking about all applications for all companies in the world. Now, that's what I would call our stage one. Down the road, what we're then going to do is, as companies build out their internal secure private data networks, enable those networks to be interconnected to create, kind of think of it conceptually as a data internet, which opens up kind of a whole new business model. But even the first stage that we're in now, which we're hyper-focused on, is massive. We're talking about the end of applications. So frankly, in the world of technology, there is no bigger opportunity. So turning that into a dollar amount, it would be in the many hundreds of billions, but it's not only saving companies from having to buy or build the software, but it's their own internal IT costs in using and configuring and integrating. So at scale, our technology eliminates integration. It eliminates all the byproducts of this complexity and this kind of backward approach where data is subservient to the application. So long answer for it's big.
And then, talking about the business model itself,
Yeah.
How are you guys structured at this point? Is it kind of a SaaS fee, professional services plus SaaS?
Right.
What is that structure?
Yeah, so this is something that we really struggled with optimizing, trying to keep it all simple. So where we've landed is, first of all, our platform can run anywhere a customer wants. We don't want access to our customers' data, so they have the ability to run it on a private cloud, on-prem. They can do GCP, AWS, Azure. It's up to them. And because they're paying the infrastructure cost, we don't want to charge accordingly. So it's unlimited users, unlimited data, unlimited solutions. The only thing that we charge for is an annual subscription for what we call a builder. So in our platform, there's really two kinds of users. There's users and then there's builders. Users use what builders create, and builders need an annual subscription in order to build. So that's really what we sell. Now, we do offer complementary services to help our customers get up to speed and frankly facilitate the unlearning that is often required. But we really are enabling our customers to use our technology themselves to solve their own unique business challenges versus being dependent upon us. So those services are really to help our customers internalize their own delivery capabilities using this new approach.
That's fantastic. And I think, the more you simplify it, just because of the nature of what you're doing, I think simple first is often the best approach, especially with enterprise. So you guys have, in my opinion, at least, you've selected the right approach to move forward. In terms of your overall go-to market, talk to me about that. How is the world of enterprise finding you guys and understanding more about data collaboration as a platform?
Right. So I would say up until fairly recently, we've been in, I wouldn't call it kind of official stealth, but we've been in soft launch, meaning we haven't done any actual marketing outside of the odd, pitch contest or other things. It's been largely kind of targeted outreach and mostly kind of word of mouth, both inside of our customers as well as across organizations. Now, we have obviously changed that. So we're starting to make the world know that we exist. So our kind of coming out party was here in Toronto at Collision, which was great. We had a really good reception, very busy booth, generated many hundreds of high quality leads. And our approach, though, because we're introducing a new paradigm, we're not introducing a better this or a better that. It's a radically different approach, which frankly is scary, especially to big organizations, especially to highly regulated organizations that are naturally risk adverse. So if you look back, though, at other kind of category creators, so organizations like Salesforce introducing the SaaS model and Amazon introducing the concept of cloud computing and infrastructure as a service, these were kind of radical ideas that were quite controversial. And their approach to marketing, which was successful for them, was not to market their specific offering, because their offering was totally unique. It was to market the paradigm. And that's really what we're doing, is we're educating the world on the power of applying data collaboration as an alternative to buying and building applications. And it's not just about our company. There's an emerging ecosystem here. This is the next big shift. This will change quite a bit of things. And a lot of other companies, be them service companies or technology companies, are going to really thrive in the post-app era. So that's really what our approach is. And from a go-to-market, continuing to focus on enterprise for the time being, down the road, also expanding and going into SMB, and frankly, eventually going all the way to individual people. Because you as an individual person have data that is important to you, that is sensitive, but you do not have any idea who has access to that data, and you provide copies of that data. You don't provide access, which is the fundamental flaw in the conventional approach. And that's how organizations like Facebook and others are able to even exist, is by taking advantage of that void, that missing technology that we're creating.
Now, are partnerships part of your strategy as well when we talk about go-to-market and increasing awareness and moving from stealth to letting people know about this new horizon?
Yeah, that's critically important. Is when you're trying to do what we're trying to do, you can't succeed alone. So we've actually just recently formalized our partnership program. We were doing it kind of informally previously, but we're already now working with many of the major consultancy firms in the world to enable them to productize some of their service offerings and become subject matter experts on this new paradigm. And allow organizations to shift from trying to be data-driven, which is impossible unless you drive your data, and showing them how to drive their data. That's really what the shift is. So that is critical for us, especially as we look to kind of rapidly accelerate awareness and adoption. So if we just did nothing but direct sales, direct marketing, that will grow only so fast. But leveraging partnerships and using those partners to get access to their customers and allowing those partners to unlock new revenue creates truly win-win opportunities, which will result in dramatic acceleration to our growth. So we're really just getting started, but that's critical for our success.
That's great. I'm sure you've heard of the term data is the new oil. And as the business world's becoming, increasingly more data aware, and structuring new roles, whether it's a data scientist or a data engineer. What's your advice to folks that are looking to get themselves into a career in enterprise data and progress into that? Right.
I'd say the one thing that I would suggest is don't fall victim of hype. So I've been around long enough to see several hype cycles and, all the fake news and mass confusion, the big data trend being just one example of that. And I've seen too many folks kind of fall into that and shift their career based on these hype cycles and suffer as a result of there being growing awareness. Like if we go back even a few years ago, everyone was super hyped up about building out a data lake. It's the panacea, is going to solve all our problems. Then there's the realization, oh, wait a minute, a data lake is a dumping ground for raw data. That's not going to change really anything other than give us the ability to kind of use that data with advancements in computational power. But it's not going to change how we build new systems. It's not going to accelerate new projects. It's not going to do any of that. So that's just one example. So what I would encourage people to do is really kind of challenge that conventional thinking and actually to take a step back at kind of what is others not doing and anticipate, not based on the current trend, but what trend is it inevitable based on the reality. So like for us, when we were coming kind of out to the market, and there's still an element of that today, everyone's confused where they're focused on, we need a copy of data in a central location, and then all of a sudden everything's cool. Without focusing on where the data originates from, which is really what we're doing, is we're intercepting where data is created and fixing it at that source, because that's ultimately how you'll solve the real problem. But that wasn't conventional. That wasn't a hype cycle that we were following, is we were looking at the technology, understanding it at a deeper level, and then creating the technology that we believe will be a major hype cycle in the future, and one that actually has legs. So don't believe the hype.
Oh, it's great advice. If you could put up a billboard with anything on it, what would it say?
From a Cinchy perspective, I would say, welcome to the post-app era, because I'm really excited about that.
Awesome.